we're ready to jump into this awesome workshop. Make sure to make the most of this time by getting your questions ready for our speakers. You can feel free to type them into the chat at any time, and we're going to answer as many as we can, time permitting. What are we waiting for? Let's get started.
Welcome. I'm David Metter, and thank you for attending our workshop, Why Would You Call a Plumber to Fix Your Technology Problems? Now, I have the honor of serving as an advisor to the Automotive Broadcasting Network and DealerIT. And I've done a number of things in my career, like selling cars, managing a dealership, being a general manager, CMO of a large dealer group, joining a technology startup company, starting my own. And the reason I bring all of those up is because I don't remember in my lifetime in the car business ever seeing a survey like we're going to present to you today. I believe it's the first of its kind. Last month, DealerIT released the results of a first of its kind survey of network speeds in retail automotive dealerships conducted in July of this year. Utilizing more than 2,200 testing devices across 1,132 unique sites, DealerIT directed each to perform a network speed test at specified times to paint a fully detailed picture of network performance under multiple circumstances. Now, this study was conducted because today's dealerships rely on bandwidth and a reliable network infrastructure in order to sell and service automobiles more than they ever have before. Now, these results represent the average of tests conducted 3 times daily on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday of a given week. To ensure results were not skewed by specific events, like a month-end closeout, a week in the middle of the month was selected. Neither the day of the week or the time of the day produced any significant variation in the outcome of the testing. Speed tests were just consistently poor. In terms of upload speed, 59% of all dealerships measured below the good mark of 50 megabits per second. Ping speeds, determined to be adequate at 20 milliseconds or less, were even more concerning, with barely 40% of all dealerships meeting or exceeding the benchmark. Download speed was most alarming. Less than 1% of all tested networks, only 6 dealerships, achieved a desired speed of 100 megabits per second or higher. Compare this to the speed of your network at home. Would you tolerate a slow, choppy connection while you're binging Netflix? Well, of course not. Then how is a slow connection acceptable for your dealership? With salespeople utilizing video walkarounds and using FaceTime to interact with their customers, and dealerships relying on CRM and digital retailing tools, internet speed has become vitally important. Even service writers and technicians are taxing dealership networks with virtual communication and video solutions. Dealership bandwidth issues will be even more amplified as the connected car becomes more prevalent. So, what I'm most interested to do today is to get some questions answered for you, and for you to ask questions as we go forward through our workshop. And I'd love to introduce Travis Ingram. Travis is the founder of DealerIT and will be able to help us go through this journey and really dig deep into our assessment into these dealerships. So Travis, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started DealerIT.
No, thanks, appreciate the invitation today. My name's Travis Ingram. I founded DealerIT in 2011. The reason I created the company was that there were no technology solutions for dealerships. When I started as an IT director in Jacksonville market, I've been doing this for over 20 years now. And I've found that vendors and dealerships don't always see eye to eye on technology problems. And I just wanted to be the person who created those solutions for the dealerships. And as we've come across different problems with internet connectivity and bandwidth and the various security-related problems that affect dealerships today, there was no one helping facilitate those issues. So I'm glad that the study was done. I'm glad we could point out the results that David is presented to earlier, and I look forward to discussing with Q&A later.
Excellent, thank you. As we looked at the survey results, and you had a chance to really dig into them, What was the most surprising thing that you saw from the speed test?
So the numbers you gave before, the 6 out of 1,100 dealerships that we tested across the multiple days and multiple times, really shocking to see that there are only less than 1% of dealerships adequately have enough bandwidth. And I really should say they're adequate enough network, because the internet speeds are affected by a lot of different things. Their network, their wireless, the providers, they all have an impact on that network speed test. And so dealerships tend to focus on how fast they can download something, which is the pain they usually feel, which is why every general manager or owner that I've ever had a conversation with is basically said, just get me more internet. I get brought in to basically fix the internet speed issue over my last 20 years of doing this, and usually it's not the problem. Usually it has something to do with internal that we need to look into, upgrading aged equipment, or we need to look into their design of what they've built out for their building. Typically they'll build out a building and they're not prepared for the growth that they're going to go into. And so we have to look at the fundamental aspect of everything they're trying to do. They've recently added the ability to do Zoom calls, or technicians, doing video streams. That's having a huge impact on their network. And so they're going, why does it not work now? It used to work yesterday.
It's funny you say that, because I think that we would not have any tolerance whatsoever if this was our home network. If it affected our ability to watch Netflix or our ability to watch live stream sports, right? But for some reason, we've always had this tolerance within the dealerships. And I'm wondering if we will start to be more aware of this because of the additional functionality, the different technology tools that dealers are starting to really have to rely on as they go in the future of selling and servicing more cars. In fact, maybe that's a good segue. How do you think the network speeds affect a dealership from selling or servicing more vehicles?
I can't think of any aspect of the dealership that is not affected by technology. And that has to do with the internet speeds or connectivity to their DMSs or CRMs. Every part of the dealership now is being involved with some aspect of technology. So ask the service manager, how hard is it to program his cars right now? How long is it taking to get cars through service? The sales department, how long is it taking for them to log into their CRM or get car keys, because it's all controlled by technology now. The finance manager is trying to get that customer through finance or book a deal at the end of the month, or he's using that new menu system that they gave them. Every aspect of the dealership is being involved with some level of technology, and I can't think of it going down. They're only adding more to it every single day. And so the internet speeds are going to have to adjust for that additional demand that's hitting the dealerships.
So Travis, what is more important to a dealer? Their upload speed or their download speed?
The truth is capacity. Most dealerships will tell you that the pain they feel is their download speed. But with managed networks, there's 3 areas you need to focus on, which is capacity, speed, and security. To give you an example, you have that Ferrari you take out on the road every day. If it's a 1-lane highway, you're not going anywhere faster than the car in front of you. That's an example of capacity. Doesn't matter how fast that car is, doesn't matter how fast your internet speed is, you're only going as fast as what a car in front of you lets you go. So we have to educate dealers that they have to build their dealership for capacity, that they have the adequate enough equipment to handle the load that's coming on it. To give you a comparison, like at home, 100 meg internet is completely fine for 3 or 4 people. Add 50 employees to it, add 20 customers visiting it. Now you're doing video testimonials, now you're doing walkthroughs on FaceTime, technicians are doing video posting. If you have nothing to set the priority for that commodity, which is your bandwidth, everything's just tying for that available connectivity, and the impact is you're not doing business.
So I'm going to dumb it down for me a little bit. Are you saying that I could have the fastest internet speed coming into the building, but when you talk about capacity, it could actually be the connectivity from where that internet is connected, let's say in my server room, down to my desk as a salesperson? Are you saying that could actually be part of the problem?
Yeah, most times the hardware that we have in our buildings is the biggest impact to the dealership's connectivity. So everything that's connected hardwire, so that phone you're connected through, the computer you're using, every one of those has a destination point of speed, capacity that can handle. And they all have to be at the same number, or else you're just hitting bottlenecks between each other.
And I know we'll talk about how this potentially could impact vendors later in our discussion, but if I'm sitting at my desk and I am connected to my CRM, or I'm trying to upload content, maybe trying to send something like a virtual test drive to a customer, that it has nothing to do with the speed of internet. That could actually be something that would affect me and make me a disgruntled employee because I can't, like, I'm trying to get something done and nothing's happening.
Most times, yeah. Most time it has to do with the hardware, not the connection speeds, is what we've found over the past 20 years we've done this. And our survey results show that basically, they probably do have decent internet speeds, they just can't use it, and they have no idea why.
Got it. So, one of the things that I noticed in the survey results, we reported on this thing called ping, right? Can you give me like a layman's definition of what ping means?
Sure. Ping is a technical term. Most technology professionals use it as a benchmark tool to basically say how fast something is sent and received. It's a measurement tool that we use to determine the diagnostics of a problem at a dealership. It gives us a snapshot into the performance and the health of an organization. And so as we were talking about earlier, you have high bandwidth, but you may have high pings. It's an indication that you've got an aging equipment, or you've got bad network, or you've got a problem with congestion and not enough capacity. As the conversation was, they need to focus on capacity. A ping is a good indication, tells us we need to go look at something with the network.
So you're telling me that if we have a quick ping, that's a good thing?
Yeah, the lower the ping, the better.
Okay, and so if I have a high ping, that means that something's happening within that connectivity between me and whatever provider or technology or connection I'm trying to make?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you an analogy. So you have the Ferrari, you're driving on the interstate, and you get onto a one-lane highway. It doesn't matter how fast that car is, you're going as fast as the car in front of you. And so that has to do with the connectivity. That ping is how fast that car can transgress over the network.
So if I'm a dealership employee, or I own a dealership, I've got to actually pay attention to that, because arguably I could have great connectivity, have great upload and download capability, but if my ping is high, that's going to cause all kinds of problems for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as we stated, that it doesn't matter how much bandwidth you throw at the problem, you're just going to keep frustrating yourself. And you're going to blame your vendors, and you're going to blame your IT department, because they're not looking at the root problem, they're looking at the symptoms that you're complaining about. Interesting.
So, there's always been a discussion at the dealership level about technology and really more of the managed network within a dealership being a money pit versus a revenue generator. Maybe give us reasons why it gets viewed as more of a money pit than really helping to sell and service more cars.
Mostly because the plumber's called in to fix IT issues. And so it's an hourly service. We call you when something breaks. They have no interest in actually making it go away. They want you to keep calling in to come fix that hourly problem. And so if you have someone who's your technology partner that you're working with, they have skin in the game to make you stable, to make you reliable, make you a good customer, so you can go focus on your priorities, which is servicing and selling cars. If you're having to have a conversation about technology, internet speeds, or outages, is your phone system down? Is it a 15-year-old phone system? Someone needs to have a conversation with you about evolving that phone system. Are you dealing with hardware that's been around for 10 or 15 years that has no security and no capacity for what you are from the point when you built the building? You need to have a conversation with your technology department. And honestly, every general manager and every owner and every senior management in the dealership needs to have a conversation with their IT department going, what's new? Vehicles change every single year. There's new features in a vehicle every year that your salespeople are trained on and you educate your customers on. Technology changes monthly, weekly, daily. And so have a conversation with them. What can they offer to make your services better? If you're a single dealership, what communication tools can we invest in that make us be more efficient? Are we a multi-point store? What collaboration can we use together to be a bit more beneficial for our business? And so technology can help grow the business. It can dramatically impact our ability to invest in our customer services and things like that. But if you don't invest in it, it will dramatically, it will impact your ability to grow.
I love your analogy about the plumber, right? Because you're right. I've never called a plumber as I'm doing a cool new project where I need some like a proactive, insight ever, right?
Yeah.
From a plumber. They're always reactive. It's the toilet stopped up or something's not working. The sink is, the disposal's not working. That's when a plumber gets pulled in. Do you think it's because in most cases, what I've seen is that the CFO or the VP of accounting is usually the one who is responsible. They get the responsibility of managing IT services. And I'm not saying that they're reactive in nature, but their main focus isn't revenue generation. Do you think it's a real failure maybe at the dealership level that you don't have sales leader or service leaders involved in those discussions from the start?
Never thought about it, but it's funny as you say that. Almost every time I'm brought in as a consultant for dealer groups, I'm meeting with the CFO or the controller or the senior accounting person because IT tends to fall under the accounting office as an expense structure. But you're right, absolutely. They're missing the opportunity for investment and opportunity for them to evolve their business because they're so focused on cost cutting. They treat the IT department like the plumber going, I need you to fix this problem and go away. When really it should be part of strategy and part of the guidance of the growth of the business, being involved in every department meeting, be involved in every construction meeting. Where can your department help me with our business? And so you need to find the right partner.
So maybe one of our best practices that we are sharing as part of this workshop would be have sales and service leadership be involved in that conversation from the very beginning.
Yeah, our whole goal is to grow the business. Those are the departments that are growing the business. And so the general manager and the dealer principals are going to understand that, that's the money makers of the business. And so we need to bring in the right partners to make us to have that happen. Cost is important, as we do construction points for dealerships and we help them guide them through that. I reference a construction point we did recently where they had budgeted a large amount of money. We only needed half of that. And so they had no idea what they needed to spend for technology. And so we have to guide them and understand that you don't need $2 million in technology, but you do need to invest somewhat in your future.
So that foundation of trust, you have to have that foundation of trust because it sounds like, well, like in any business, you can be taken advantage of, especially when you don't really know that space very well.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Technology is not what they got in the business to do, right? It's just evolved in that where we are now is technology helps, run the business or controls the dealership's aspect of it. And IT and technology, period, there's a lot of trust there. They have to have confidence that the person they're working with is the right partner for them. They're giving them literally the keys to the kingdom, and so you have to have comfortability that they're taking care of you and guiding you in the right direction. If you're not, you tend to not make decisions because you don't trust the guidance you're getting.
So, if I put my dealer principal hat on, if I were to buy a new dealership today, and there are certain things that I know that I would absolutely do on the sales and service side, strategic moves so that I could go and take care of my customers and sell more cars and service more cars. But as far as technology goes, could you give me some advice, maybe a couple of technology must-haves, if I were to go and open up my doors today?
Yeah, invest in your future, invest in your technology, invest in managed networks, and invest in your infrastructure. They are the foundation for all the technology platforms and products and vendors you want to bring into the business. You have to have a good working infrastructure for all that to be able to benefit you. Evolve. So if you're an existing dealership rooftop or you're looking to grow into a new buy-sell type of opportunity, evolve. Understand that the technology you used to use yesterday, maybe better options now. Technology changes daily. Have a conversation with someone about what can I be looking at. You're looking at DMSs every single year, every 3 or 5 years on your contract renewals. You're looking at CRMs and website providers. Look at the technology that's running your business. It's the biggest impact you can make on your operation. And the last one would be education. Doesn't matter how much technology I put in your dealership or how much investment we make in it. If you don't educate the employees on how to use that technology, you train them on what the cars can do, train them on what operates your business, educate them that what services are available to them. It's going to make their day life easier on how they do their business. It can improve morale. Technology doesn't have to be the hurdle. It can actually be really beneficial to the business.
Yeah, I think those are 3 great points. It's interesting when you started talking about educating them, one thing came to mind. we've certainly gone through a dramatic shift in our world over the last 8 months, but it really affected car dealerships. And the way that they could sell and service cars. In some states, they couldn't sell or service at all.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you saw as really the trusted resource for a number of dealerships across the country that you were able to do, or dealerships were able to do, because of that education, that foundation of education, the trust in the managed network, that helped them to pivot quicker in a time where their business was dramatically affected?
Yeah, the biggest impact was communication. So they didn't have the ability to walk in the building and conversate with their employees or their management or the customers, and so communication starts becoming a huge problem for them. And the groups that we were already working with, they already had the technology to let them collaborate and communicate with each other effectively with technology, sharing of files, sending email communications, doing Zoom video calls. And it's something as simple as as your phone system, right? You're used to your traditional phone system in the building, the receptionist answering the phones. Well, when no one can go to the building, no one can take the phone calls. Salespeople can't take the phone calls. There's no BDC to answer them. So starting really to impact the business. And so we got brought into a number of dealerships going, help us solve this problem. And it was really just they had no fundamental understanding of technology for communications.
So are you telling me that if I owned a dealership and you were my technology partner, that you were able to help me pivot in the way that I was able to follow up with sales calls, leads, and other types of things that I couldn't physically do in my dealership that I used to do, but because I was pushing my people back home, you were giving them tools to be able to do their jobs remotely?
Yeah, I mean, we had never thought about selling cars over people working from their home. They had never thought about communicating, buying cars, facilitating, dropping them off at people's vehicles at their homes. And so the whole business paradigm changed immediately overnight. And so we had to change with it. Most dealerships don't have an understanding of how to even do that. They're very paper style, handwritten dealership contracts. We're not doing e-contracting. We're not doing any of that kind of stuff to facilitate any of the kind of work that we need to do with technology. And so we were having to come up with creative solutions for dealerships who hadn't invested yet, and some who had like immediate need. So we had dealerships, I referenced the phone system before, they literally, day one, couldn't take a single phone call. Within 24 hours, we had an operation for them where they could be able to take phone calls and be able to work and do business. That was literally a 24-hour turnaround for them. That was hugely impactful for them. That was literally their business was shut down and it was completely open the next day. Whereas before, they had no solution. They were completely nothing to do.
Interesting. So I mean, as I hear you talk through this, let's say I run it through my filter, if I'm a dealer principal, like there aren't a lot of things that are more important than the network that I set up within my dealership. I mean, I'm not trying to softball you a question,
sure.
But is that what you're trying to communicate?
Yeah, what I want the survey to inform and what I want to educate everyone is that, you're focusing on speed tests, and I want you to understand that there's a lot of variables that go into a speed test. And so you need to be informed about that. There's other aspects that you need to resolve than just buying more bandwidth.
Got it. So all of these speed tests were done within a connected, hard-lined device within the dealership, right? It was not done through the wireless network. Are you telling me that as we look at these speeds in the assessment, because they are all hardline, that should arguably be the best connection, right?
Yeah, it should be.
So are you telling me that if I'm a dealer principal, that my wireless speeds could be less than that?
Oh, absolutely. The wireless is just an extension of the existing network. And so typically wireless networks are guys going over to local Best Buy and buying equipment that's really residential grade wireless and just expanding their network coverage. And they're really setting themselves up for failure, really. So yeah, the wireless coverage is always going to be about signal strength and speeds and security. But if you've already got a fundamental problem at the hardline issue, the wireless is going to compound that problem.
Okay, so there are applications that I would do at the dealership that would require a good solid wireless network. And some of those examples could be, I'm shooting photos for every single one of my cars. That's got to be in a wireless application. Or if I'm doing 360 spins and I'm pushing all of the inventory and all of the photos and video up, that's going to be on the wireless network.
Yep.
If I'm really progressive as a dealer and I'm shooting service video so that my customers can see what's wrong with their car and then approve or deny, that work being done, that's all done through a wireless network. And if I, like in my mind, I'm doing simple math. If I have those things all happening at the same time, where I've got cars being shot, photos being taken, inventory being uploaded, having service technicians running, video and pushing that content out on a wireless network, that could be debilitating, right?
Well, it gets worse. So most
It gets worse
than that, actually. So most dealerships don't have wireless set up in a way that where they have capacity or what's called quality of service. They can't control who gets the priority of the bandwidth. And so all the vendors, all your normal business and even the customers are all competing for the same bandwidth. And so if you don't have the proper technology in place to set those priorities, it's important that I can use my DMS or my CRM or my phone calls. The customer's kid in the lounge who's watching YouTube videos is going to eat up all your bandwidth, where you're basically shutting down your dealership where you can't do business because your customer's on Netflix.
Okay, so we're sitting here talking, and I'm putting myself in the position of a dealer principal, and I'm concerned about all of these happenings. Really, who gets swept into this? Probably in a lot of ways by accident, are the vendors that the dealer chooses to do business with. Because I gave the example of service videos and then car inventory and photos and video being shot. There are vendors that are supplying these dealers with this technology, right? And then, the most basic things like CRM and DMS are all cloud-based now, on top of pretty much everything else that's happening. So vendors could easily be blamed for things that have literally nothing to do with the vendor.
And usually are. So we get brought in, or I get brought in specifically to address those specific problems. My whole role or my goal when I work with dealerships is what vendors you're currently using, what vendors you're looking at using, and my job is to mend all that and make it all work together. So vendors a lot of time get the blame for stuff they have absolutely no control over. They're relying on the dealership's network to be stable and at capacity and reliable so that their services are doing what they're supposed to be doing. You're paying for that service, but they have zero control of how well that network is being run or managed. They just get the phone call that your stuff is down. DealerIT was founded to solve these exact kind of problems. I don't care if you're the DMS or the CRM, inventory control system, or the website provider, you're going to get blamed every day and twice on Saturday for every speed issue and every outage that the dealership has. And a lot of times you have no control of those issues. You're just getting the phone calls and going, why doesn't your solution work? And honestly, their internal network, their managed network is lacking its capabilities, and your product can't shine. It can't do what it's supposed to do, and the dealers are gonna blame you every day for those problems. And so what we do is we work with the dealerships and the vendors and try to figure out what those problems are.
Man, so do you have any advice that you would give to vendors that have to deal with real life situations like that when dealers give them a call?
Yeah, from the dealer's perspective, just be patient. A lot of times it's not their fault. The vendors want to service you. They want to take care of you. Obviously, they've sold you a product and their reputation's on the line. So they're typically good people and they're good products. And I work with all of them. And so I can tell you firsthand that they're good people. They're trying to solve the problem. From the vendor's perspective, the dealers don't know what the problem is. They just want someone to fix the issue. And so they're going to yell at their IT guy. They're going to blame the vendor. They're just trying to sell cars. They're trying to service customers. They've got CSI they're trying to meet up with. And so just understand that someone's got to be the middle point to help them. Typically, the IT department is brought in to help solve those problems and bend those relationships. It doesn't have to be adversarial. It doesn't have to be confrontational in the conversations between the dealerships. And if you can't solve a problem, call me, I'll help them.
That sounds good. So maybe give me a practical example of where a dealership has had an issue with a vendor, or a vendor has added new technology, which you've clearly seen has created an issue at the dealer. Just kind of walk us through that example. I think it would be good for our workshop attendees to hear something like that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So one that comes to mind is we had a CRM that was recently introduced to a dealership group, and they were having all kind of speed issues and connectivity problems, and neither the vendor or the dealership could make any reason of it. It took us troubleshooting with the internet provider over the course of probably 4 weeks to come to the root cause of the issue, and it happened to be that the internet connection that the dealership was using just wouldn't let them talk to that website. And that may sound weird, but that happens every day. You get on the road and travel to your work every single day, and it's the same path you take every single day. There's construction, there's a traffic jam, they change the route. That happens literally every day of every second on the internet, and so paths change and things are different, and they're constantly trying to route that traffic to faster locations, which is why you have the slowdowns. That was yesterday, it was fast, today it's slow. The internet providers are all trying to route the traffic the best way they can, but the vendors are being impacted and the dealerships are being impacted. You have no control of those. The only thing you can do is give yourself options. You have redundancy and you have managed networks to basically route that traffic based on your priorities, not the internet providers.
So maybe just a broad best practice would be for vendors to really have a good relationship with the entity that manages the technology and that managed network for the dealership. I mean, that's probably an obvious.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's probably not a better advocate for the vendor is going to be the IT department or the vendor they've got in to manage their networks, because they set them up to shine. And so they can hurt your chances, or they can, make you look really good to the dealership, and ultimately they can control your destiny there.
So Travis, in a recent study, Cisco projected a 250% growth in wireless connected devices. That's obviously going to tax wireless networks. What do you think dealers need to recognize when setting up a wireless network in their dealership?
Yeah, absolutely. Wireless is only growing, right? Every vendor you bring in is asking to be put on their wireless network, be it a secure or guest wireless. Every customer is coming in is bringing 1 or 2 devices with them as for connectivity. Used to just be a laptop, now it's my cell phone, now it's my kid's gaming system. And so the wireless network is only getting more congested. Before, dealerships only focused on the customer lounge, right? I want to have guest wireless for my customers, and that's really all we focused on. Now the world of the industry is going to, I need my showroom coverage, or I need my service space covered, or I need my service lane covered, because I have tablets in the service lane now that I'm greeting customers with. I have technicians doing iPad connectivity and doing video streams. My sales department is now taking phone calls over VoIP apps, or they're using the various vendors' software I'm using to look up inventory or do the deal over a tablet. So the wireless coverage is growing, so the capacity is growing, the need is growing. Not to mention, we start talking about going into the parking lot coverage, right? So now they're greeting people in the parking lot, they want to do inventory controls, security cameras. I mean, you think of it, everything is going and taxing that wireless network. It's just going to get worse.
Yeah, I think about the parking lot for sure. You have apps that salespeople are using through up systems. CRM applications are even mobile and app-based now. So you have to have that coverage. And certainly, I'm seeing this huge increase of wireless connectivity in service space. I mean, when you walk into most dealerships, is there wireless even set up in their service area?
Most times not. No, I mean, they'll add it as an OEM requires it because there's some requirements now, but most times they're not. It's an afterthought of, oh, I have to have that now.
Well, it's funny you bring up the OEM requirements. We know that that's related to connected car.
Yeah.
Right? So the majority of the new cars that are being produced have some connectivity. So when they pull into the service lane, they have to be able to connect. So that's one more wireless opportunity, right? Yep, multiplied by all the cars that are coming into service.
Yeah, it's just another device, and there's only so many devices you can have on a network at one time, right? So you start talking about capacity and growth needs, and so every vendor that comes in wants to put their stuff on there. Every customer wants to come in and eat up all the bandwidth. It's just a big commodity that's being pulled from, going, who's the priority, what's my priority? And you have to have either the technology or someone responsible for going, this is what I want working, not working. So there's only a pool. You got to pull from the pool smartly.
Well, it's funny you bring up the capacity piece again, and in my mind, I automatically went to the Ferrari in the one-lane highway. So basically, you're telling me that if I have a one-lane highway through my dealership, nothing's really going to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how fast you want to travel in that sports car. It's only going to go as fast as the capacity lets you do it. And so you're fighting with the other cars, the other capacity issues. You know, you've got all these clients, all these customers, all these employees, all utilizing and fighting for that bandwidth. It's only so fast you're going to go.
That was fantastic, Travis. I really appreciate you walking us through this workshop, and hopefully, whether you're a dealer principal, dealer employee, an OEM attendee, or really even a vendor, you got something out of the workshop. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, what I'm most excited about now is that we get to walk away from this workshop and really open it up to live Q&A from the attendees. So ask away.
Thanks everyone for joining this workshop, and thank you David and Travis for such amazing insight. We're going to dive right into the Q&A, so for everyone who's still joined in, make sure that if you have any questions to ask them into the chat box, and I'll make sure to ask them. Alright, thanks everyone for joining this workshop, and thank you David and Travis for such amazing insight. We're going to dive right into... Okay, so our first question is... I've asked our IT guy how good is our internet speed, and he says it's fine, don't worry about it. What should I do?
Good question. So get a second opinion. Go to our workshop page, dealeritgroup.com/workshop. There's a speed test on there. Just get your own second opinion on it, and then have the conversation where it needs to go from there.
But don't you love that answer? Like that response?
Oh yeah, immediately.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. I got it.
There's no problem.
Awesome. Our second question that came in was, we just set up our service technicians to start shooting video in the service department. What should we be concerned about when we turn that on?
So probably going to be wireless infrastructure. So as the presentation we just saw talked about our managed networking and how you need to look into the capacity you can handle, that's exactly the conversation that you need to have with your IT professionals about what we have for wireless coverage, what kind of capacity we have, what kind of area of coverage we need for wireless, and just try to look at the demands, whatever product you're looking at putting in there, look at the requirements, make sure you're meeting that capacity and future growth potential. Don't just design it for what your current needs are. So you can invest in it, invest in your future.
Awesome. Our third question that came in is kind of like a scenario question. It says, I'm a new salesperson at a dealership and I'm constantly having problems with being able to do my job, whether it's doing my work in the CRM or communicating with my customers. But I'm afraid to go to our GM because I don't want them to think that I'm a complainer. What should I do?
Well, so my first piece of advice would be, if you don't want to be viewed as a complainer, then don't go and talk to the general manager until maybe you've just sold a car. Like that would be the best time to
Good
go,
start.
right?
Good start.
Don't go when you haven't sold a car for 3 or 4 days. That would probably be bad. But even then, I think that you have to frame it, in a positive light. I think just like anything, words that come out of your mouth and the tone are important. So, if I'm a salesperson and, I have the best interest of the dealership in mind, the things that I'm going to talk about are going to be like, I really want to do my job well. This will help me do my job better if I had the resources available. Like if I was able to go into CRM and not get blocked out. Like, I want to follow the processes of the dealership, but I can't because of this. Instead of just going into his office or her office and say, look, this crap doesn't work, you know, and that's where you'll get viewed more as a complainer.
Yeah, I mean, I'd add to that just, you know, no one from management or executive likes to hear complaints or, you know, without solutions. So solve the problem, create a solution, provide them a solution, go look at some options that, you know, solve the problem for yourself. Don't just take them the problem.
And I think, you know, like you said earlier, even a salesperson can go to our speed test page and be able to hit that so they can have a little bit of info, you know, to back up, you know, their concerns when they go in and speak to the GM or the dealer principal.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they can connect with the speed test like one of the customers, right? What are they experiencing? So you're experiencing the same problems. There's probably a fundamental issue that needs some kind of conversation.
Yep.
Cool. So Brian actually put a comment, it's not a question, but a comment in the chat box, and he says, this explains why digital retailing, when installed, normally blows up the internet at the dealership. Do you guys want to elaborate on that or have something to add?
Yeah, I think just like the question that we had earlier about video being implemented with service technicians, there's a lot going on there. Digital retailing is the same way. You've got two inherent issues when you roll out digital retailing. You've got to change the process with the sales staff, with the management staff, so that they follow that process. And then you have this technology issue, right? And so that's like the double whammy. Even if you get the process right and the training right, when they go out, like if I'm a salesperson, you've just trained me on how to use this digital retailing solution, and then I go to do it, and the first thing that happens is I'm getting the spinny wheel of death, right? Or it just shuts down, or I get disconnected over and over and over again. Like that's done. But I think that, you know, that's where dealers have to change their mindset a little bit and know that they have to plan for these things ahead of time. You talked about even with the service department where they have to make sure that they're building for the future. In those cases, you know, you really have to build for the future, because who knows what's coming down the road 6 months from now or a year from now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything more frustrating than a new employee when, you know, every new employee has all those technology hurdles that have to come with all those passwords and logins. Imagine when stuff doesn't work on top of all of that overwhelming new technology hit with you. I mean, so they have to have a little bit of planning, a little bit of patience, and understand, you know, educate your people on the cars, educate your people on the technology, just invest a little bit of time and understand that, you know, this little bit of patience has a meaningful impact to your operation.
For sure.
All right, cool. There's no more questions in the chat, so is there anything else that you guys kind of want to add, or anything you think could be beneficial to chat about with the people tuned in?
Well, I would add two things, I think. I think the first one is we started to talk about that frustration level of the employee at the dealership. I don't think that we serve that up well enough. I really think that there is an overall frustration level of employees when they don't have the right tools in order to do their job well, and if those tools don't work well. That leads to a lot of churn or a lot of turnover in employees, things that you don't get to pick up as they're walking out the door. They really didn't give you a great answer of why they're leaving, but that certainly, you know, that leads to a lot of frustration. Right?
Yeah. I mean, can you think of any other industry where we change CRMs every 6 months or website providers every year? I mean, it's a constant level of change. You have to invest in trying to understand like why this thing's not working. It's not a matter of just it's broken. You know, so let's understand why that's happening from the employee's perspective, a customer's perspective, and look at those options.
And I think the second one is, I think if I could reach out to all of the vendor partners out there, set yourself up for success, because you could have the greatest widget in the world, but when you go and put it into the dealership that is not prepared or set up for it, that could really be your downfall. And that's where vendors experience that churn, the cancellations, all the things that, you know, a vendor absolutely, you know, detests.
Yeah, I mean, I offer to the partners that we have in the relationships is, you know, I'll come do a complimentary consultation, try to figure out what's affecting your operation, you know, what helps you make that deal happen. So we're all in the same industry, we're all partnerships, we're all here to help each other. And so I'm just one small cog in the wheel that can make things happen for each other. So happy to help anyone I can.
Excellent.
Awesome. Okay. Anyone who wants to continue the conversation can head over to our Green Room Skype session immediately following the workshop. Jess Smith put it right into the chat box, so you can just click on over and talk to David and Travis one-on-one. Thank you, David and Travis, so much for your insight, and we'll meet you in the green room.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for an amazing session. Remember that you will have access to this content for the next 30 days, so come back and watch it as often as you would like. And don't forget, we are running a contest where you can accumulate points for engaging with our exhibit hall. Now, at the end of the day, whoever has the most points will win an amazing prize, so make sure to check the leaderboard throughout the day for your progress. Now, a couple quick reminders from Brian.
Thanks, Faith. I want to remind everyone that if you have questions for the speaker, presenter, or panelist, don't forget to go to the green room. Every session has a green room hosted by the session leader. It may be a Zoom link or a Skype link, but allows you right now to go in and ask any additional questions that couldn't be addressed during this normal session. And don't forget to visit our exhibit hall. Our sponsors have promotions, demos, and live interactive events at their booth going on right now. So don't forget to meet all the sponsors who made this event possible. For now, what are we waiting for? Let's get started with our next session.